2015 was the year people think 2016 was. Not just in beauty product launches, but also cultural relevancy and just random lore. 2015 was the year that brought us the blue versus gold dress debate. And it was also the last year in history that desktop devices were used more often to access the web than mobile devices. And when I say it like that, it sounds like another world, even though it was only a decade ago. So today we're going to get into all of that lore. I've been doing this series sequentially year by year, breaking down everything that happened here in the beauty community. I've done 2016 through 2020, so I will leave the playlist down below in case you want to binge watch. But we're going back in time today to 2015. Interestingly enough, I referenced some of this in the 2016 video where so many things that people associate with that year, 2016, actually took place in 2015. And specifically, so many of the product launches and popular products that we associate with 2016 were 2015 launches. So to really set the scene for what that year looked like, the most popular video on YouTube in beauty was Nikki Tutorial's The Power of Makeup video. As of today, 10 years later, it sits at 43 million views and is still one of the most viewed beauty videos on YouTube of all time. It inspired so many other creators to share their own version, and what Nikki did in the video was half of her face with makeup and the other half without, but it was a really extreme transformation. And she mentioned in the video that she was actually inspired by a look she saw on Drag Race. And this entire video is very indicative of 2015 makeup. Not only the fact that the look she did was inspired by drag, but also the extreme transformation of it. People loved a really dramatic before and after. These were some of the most popular video styles on YouTube at the time, and not just in the year 2015. Even in the years leading up to this though, I'm thinking of Michelle Phan, who really exploded doing these transformation videos, kind of turning herself into other people starting around 2009. The most popular video on her channel of all time was a transformation into Barbie, and the second most viewed is her transformation into Lady Gaga. This style of video was super popular on YouTube at the time, kind of just turning yourself into someone else. And while they were more popular years prior, we were definitely still seeing the carryover of a transformation style video being really dominant on YouTube. And I'm gonna keep coming back to that word, but 2015 makeup was transformative in a way that really contrasts what's popular today. And I had this thought recently when I was watching a tutorial. This creator shared a beautiful makeup look, and she shared the look first, and then it switches to the clip of her without the makeup and she starts applying it. And when it switched to her without makeup, I'm like, oh, okay, so she looks pretty similar both ways. This beautiful makeup look kind of just enhanced what she already looked like. That was not as much of the case in 2015. People looked very different in makeup than they looked without makeup on. And Nikki even called this out in her Power of Makeup tutorial. That's what inspired her to film the video, was that she met someone in real life at a time that she just had her hair up and no makeup on, and she's explaining to them, oh, you know, I'm a YouTuber, I do makeup looks, and she shared her content and they didn't recognize her. They were like, that looks like a different person. Again, a lot of techniques borrowed from drag. We were really into contouring and into baking. And in preparation for these videos, one series I always watch is Jackie Aina's series of Things We're Ditching. She used to do this every year, talking about trends that we wanted to leave in this year. And I want to talk about what those trends were, plus the other looks we were wearing in 2015. But before we do, a quick word from today's sponsor. I'm so excited to be working with Wonderskin again today. You know they make my holy grail lip stain. Their Blading All Day Lip Stain in the shade Hush is one of my most used makeup products. This is my second tube of it, and I'm so excited to say they just launched at Sephora, so now you can get their viral lip stain at Sephora. But in addition to the lip stains, I also love their lip liners, and they recently expanded the shade range with new shades. So many beautiful new rich options. Today I did a combo of one of my original favorite shades, the shade Nutmeg, with one of the new additions, the lip liner in the shade Walnut. And then I topped that off with their Lip Rehab Therapy Oil in the shade Clear for this very fall-inspired lip look. I'll have a link in the description so you can shop all my favorites. Thank you again to Wonderskin for partnering with me on today's video, and let's get back into it. And a couple that she mentioned in the 2015 video, she mentioned extreme artistic contouring. Like at the time, people were doing little like dots all over their faces, like drawing a little heart on their forehead and then blending it out. They were techniques that no one would actually need to use, but they just kind of looked cool visually on camera. Again, going back to that idea of this extreme before and after, you're seeing this person with like doodles all over their face, and it gets blended out into this very sharp, chiseled, contoured look. Another thing she called out in that video that she wanted to leave in 2015 was another popular trend at the time, which was strobing. And I put that in air quotes because strobing really is highlighting. And I went back to so many 2015 videos and creators kept saying that. They're like, why are we calling this strobing? It's just highlighting. And it made me laugh because it feels very similar to the way we kind of recycle and rename trends today. I think of like 2023 when it was like tomato girl, strawberry girl, and we just kept like doing the same look over and over again but renaming it. False lashes were also really big at this time. People loved a mink eyelash specifically. I was also noticing so many berry lips when I was going back and looking at 2015 videos, and this specific color I would say started trending years prior, but it definitely sustained relevancy through 2015. Like everyone had like a berry or burgundy lip. I really do associate that with like the 2015 uniform. You had this like kind of army inspired jacket, probably some skinny jeans, and then a berry lip. But when it wasn't berries, we were starting to see this like grayish lip look very popular. This was all thanks to Kylie Jenner, and we're gonna talk a lot about Kylie and her lips, but a lot of people were after that very specific grayish look that she wore so often. It was a nude, but it was very cool toned, almost kind of purpley depending on your skin tone and undertone and how it represented on you. I also wrote in my notes that teeth whitening was big at this time. And that's not to say people don't still whiten their teeth, but I remember especially in the online world, so many creators were doing like sponsored videos for teeth whitening. I specifically remember like the Jenners doing a ton of these, or even just like how I get my teeth so white videos being super popular at the time. And it's funny to think back now because I feel like a lot of these creators actually had veneers, but we just didn't know it at the time. Speaking of cosmetic work done that we didn't know at the time, Kylie's lips. Okay.
Your lips look amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Kendall said they were too big.
Unfortunately, that's going to be a relevant theme in this video, okay? So a few years prior to 2015, Kylie's lips got noticeably bigger, and for a very, very, very long time, she denied that she had any work done and kept telling us she was just overlining her lips, which we now know was a setup to her makeup brand that launched this year. We'll get into that later. But the public took such a fascination to Kylie Jenner's lips. This was another theme I kept hearing in those 2015 videos. Like people were just talking about Kylie Jenner's lips. I remember it being really trendy for people to put a random object on their lips and like suck on it to create this like plumped up lip look. People were calling it like the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. Again, because she was telling people she didn't have lip filler. And it's so funny now. Anyone could see right through that if that happened in 2025, but people were a bit more trusting in 2015, and certainly there were skeptics, but I would say the internet was kind of divided. So many people genuinely believed that those were her real lips that she had just overlined. And I look back now and I'm like, that's crazy to think. But there was a lot less transparency at the time, and people were just generally more trusting. And an overall theme I mentioned in the 2016 videos and on was that consumers started to become disillusioned and distrusting of influencers. But in 2015, that wasn't as much of the case. A really popular video style in 2015 was how to overalign your lips. I feel like this was around the time a lot of people started incorporating that into their makeup routine. That's not to say there weren't people doing overlining prior to this, but I feel like it became standard practice in this time and like everybody was doing it. And dare I say we were doing it quite poorly.
We're gonna get Kylie Jenner lip. She's doing it like way up here. I feel like it's gonna touch my nose.
Oh God, men like this.
Is this attractive?
It was that look where it was maybe semi-believable head on, maybe, but you turn to the side and it's like, oh, what's going on? But the fascination with Kylie's lips really led to a boom of lip injections. According to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, in 2015, lip injections were the second fastest growing facial procedure in the US behind dermabrasion. And it's bizarre to think about today because they have become so normalized in 2025, and our perception of like the size lips should be has really shifted now a decade later. So many people just casually get lip injections, but at the time it was a lot less common. Again, so much so to the point that people didn't think that Kylie got lip injections done, which is wild. Again, I think people are a lot more skeptical of this today. I think about Lindsay Lohan's facial transformation that's happened in the last few years, that she has since denied getting a facelift. If that exact same thing happened in 2015, I think people really would have believed her and been like, oh, okay, maybe she is just drinking green juice. Flash forward to 2025 though, we've been burned so many times we're like, something's not adding up. But I also think the acceptance and popularity of cosmetic work has shifted so much in the last decade. And I think a lot of it can be attributed back to this time where people were learning about injectables. A lot of people went and got their lips done, and for many people, that was their introduction to the world of injectables. It really was the entryway for a lot of people to enter the world of cosmetic work and for it to become more popular and more normalized. Okay, but let's talk about the products from 2015. I want to talk about everything that launched that year, but first we have to talk about something that didn't launch that year, but man, it dominated in 2015, and it was the Nivea Men's Post Shave Balm. Every beauty lover had this in their cabinet. I went through so many bottles of this. I was on the Nivea Men's Post Shave Balm train like everyone else. That became the top used primer of 2015, which is so funny to think about. And in general, primer was really big at this time. I feel like people were starting to dip their toes into skin prep and somewhat skincare, which we'll get into later in the video. But the reason this shave balm became so popular was that Nikki Tutorials shared that she was on a trip, forgot her primer, and she borrowed this from her boyfriend, and she thought her makeup wore perfectly underneath it. So she started recommending it as a makeup primer, and the internet ate it up. I'd be so curious to use that again today and see if it actually did anything, but at the time I like swore up and down, I'm like, this is game changing, my makeup lasts longer, it looks way better. And realistically, what probably happened was that prior to that, I really wasn't doing much skin prep. I didn't have a great skincare routine, so really I was just moisturizing, and so makeup was laying better. But you couldn't convince me of that in 2015. I thought it was like the primer to end all primers. But another popular primer that year that actually launched in 2015 was the Smashbox Photo Finish the Photo Finish Primer Spray. It's hard to keep track of all the primers they've launched over the years, but that one was really popular that year. It was like a spray on water. I look back on it now and I'm like, girl, that was just a water. I can't believe I wasted so much money on that, but you could not convince me of that in 2015. I thought it was like the must-have game-changing product. Also, the Becca Backlight Priming Filter launched in 2015, which is so funny because that feels very aligned with the makeup style that's popular today, where people will do this like illuminating base underneath of a skin tint. It's bizarre to me how popular it was in 2015 because we were immediately covering it up with a full coverage foundation that would not let that product shine through at all. And yet it was still one of the most popular primers of the year. We also loved a palette in 2015, and this was the year of the Morphe 35O. Oh my gosh, the internet was obsessed with 35O. The O stood for orange, but it might as well have stood for obsessed because every makeup lover had this in their collection. Later on, years down the road, they launched the 35O too. And the popularity of this really inspired the popularity both of very warm tone palettes, but also very large palettes that were all the rage around this time. Too Faced launched their popular Born This Way foundation in 2015, and now in 2025, they actually just reformulated that one. It was also the year of Jacqueline's collaboration with Becca for their Champagne Pop highlighter. Again, strobing, really intense highlighting was all the rage, and this was the highlighter. I feel like even still today, a lot of people still swear by this highlighter. Even though Becca has now closed down, this product is sold by Smashbox now. Ooh, another primer-based product, the Farsali Drops. Oh my gosh. Every Instagram tutorial you watched in this era started off with someone dripping something from Farsali on their face. And the Rose Gold Elixir was like that girl. Everyone had it, or they wanted to have it. It was so popular, you could not escape that product. This next one might feel random to include, and you might think, was that relevant to talk about? But I think it was, and hear me out. Urban Decay collaborated with Gwen Stefani in 2015. Is that a standout palette today? Not necessarily. But these were the early stages of like celebrity collaborations with beauty brands. Brands were really seeing the power of collaborating with celebs, with influencers, and how it's easier to sell a product when it has someone else's name on it, which later down the years evolved into like the 5 million IP collabs that we have coming out now in 2025. But at the time, people were so excited, like, oh my gosh, Urban Decay's collaborating with Gwen Stefani. And I found a video that Gwen Stefani did with Candy Johnson, who was a really big beauty creator at the time. And this was kind of to promote this palette, which again, years later, we started seeing this type of marketing a lot more often. Now I think of a beauty brand, let's say Patrick Ta. When he has a new product coming out, he will do a million TikToks with different prominent creators. But at the time, these were newer concepts we were seeing. And people were like, oh my gosh, Candy Johnson's getting Gwen Stefani on her channel. Like, that's huge. Another defining theme of 2015 was liquid lipstick. So funny to talk about today because they've really fallen out of popularity, but that was the lip formula in 2015. Nobody wanted a bullet lipstick. A lip gloss? Maybe on top of your liquid lipstick, but still probably not, because people wanted that matte look. And this was kind of an emerging product category at the time. You know, years prior, we'd gotten like the Stila Stay All Day liquid lipsticks, and we were starting to see more and more beauty brands launch their own liquid lipsticks. And even more came out in 2016 and beyond. But in 2015 was when Kylie Cosmetics launched, and specifically launched with 3 lip kits. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier in the video, this was at the time a lot of the public still thought these lip kits were the reason her lips looked like that. She was telling us it was just from using makeup. So a lot of people wanted to get their hands on these like magical lip kits that could take your lips from this to this. And wow, were these popular. They sold out within seconds. It was like the product to have. And Kylie Cosmetics was such a popular brand at the time. Kylie in general was a really popular person at the time and wasn't nearly as controversial and polarizing as she is today. Like in 2015, a lot of people actually did like her. Everyone was trying to get their hands on this product. We also had the affordable brands getting in on this. This was the year that ColourPop launched their wildly successful ultra matte liquid lipsticks. NYX also gave us their version with their liquid suede. We also had the KVD everlasting lipsticks around this time. Like, people were starting to dip their toes into liquid lipsticks, and that's a product category I look back on and I kind of cringe because so many, especially of those early formulas, looked awful, felt awful, but at the time, you could not convince me of that. Like, I thought my dried out crusty lips looked amazing. And the selling point really was the longevity there. I think in general, like, longevity was a popular selling point on makeup. They were like 48-hour wear foundation. Like, who needs that? But that's what really dominated in that era. And the appeal of liquid lipsticks was that you don't need to touch them up. Another popular product style at this time was micellar water. And I specifically want to talk about where skincare started to evolve and go in 2015. So micellar water was certainly not invented at this time, but it was definitely introduced to an American audience around this time. The Bioma micellar water was really popular, but 2015 was the year that Simple launched their micellar water and the year that Garnier launched theirs in the US. And let me tell you, when I was watching 2015 favorites videos, this was like check, check, check on everyone's video. They were like, the Garnier micellar water, the Garnier micellar water. And I'm not surprised to see it become so popular at this time because it's pretty effective at removing makeup. You know, I wouldn't use that solely to cleanse, but we were wearing a lot of makeup at the time, so it makes sense that people were looking for more than just a liquid cleanser. Like, they were adding in other steps to make sure they were removing the makeup from their face. But that also coincided with the kind of first wave of K-beauty for Western consumers. K-beauty was introduced to Western consumers a little bit sooner than this through things like BB creams and CC creams, but around this time was when the idea of this like 10-step K-beauty skincare routine started getting really popular. And we really started seeing that K-beauty influence. A lot of people adopted double cleansing around this time, which I would say years down the road, it gained even more popularity. And I would say now for most makeup wear as like an essential part of the skincare routine, but people weren't really doing it. I mean, let me clarify. In the West, it was not that popular prior to this. Like, we would just use a makeup wipe, take it off, and call it a day. But it was really sites like Soko Glam, Peach and Lily, Glow Recipe that started introducing K-beauty products to Western consumers. And those all launched between 2012 and 2014. And you might be confused to hear me saying names like Peach and Lily and Glow Recipe. Like, what do you mean? Those two were not originally selling their own products. Those were some of the original sites that sold K-beauty products to Western consumers. They didn't introduce their own product lines until years down the road. And flash forward to 2025, we are in what a lot of people have described as like the second wave of K-beauty. And we've talked about this specifically in my members only videos. If you didn't know, I have a membership on my channel. It's called Off the Record, and we talk every 2 weeks about different beauty topics that don't make their way into my long form videos. But we talked in a recent episode all about K-beauty coming to a lot of major beauty retailers, and specifically the push that Ulta and Sephora have been making for K-beauty products on their websites. But around 2015-ish was when a lot of consumers were introduced to these brands for the first time. And yes, the popularity of skincare really grew around 2020 and beyond, but I feel like the seedlings were planted in 2015 for people to start prioritizing skincare in addition to just makeup. Even thinking about like Glossier, which was really popular at this time, even though they launched in 2014, like their original motto was skin first, makeup second, which was really not the vibe at the time. Like, it was all about the makeup, but the seedlings were starting to be planted for consumers to be more interested in skincare. But outside of just products, when I was going back and watching 2015 videos, I really noticed a different content filming style. And I spoke about this theme in some past videos in this series, but videos were just a little bit more bare bones at the time. It was very rare to see any B-roll meaning like a clip that plays over the main clip. Whereas today, that is an expectation if you're reviewing a foundation, that while you're speaking about the foundation, you will be sharing clips of you applying it, showing how it wears, showing close-ups. That was not the case at the time. Like, those were rarely being shown. Like, I went back and watched the like 45-minute yearly favorites video from Jaclyn Hill this year, and she doesn't apply any of the products. It's literally just holding them up. She's like, I liked this sponge. I like this. No close-ups, no applications. A random thing that I noticed though watching these videos was how often the creators would talk to someone off camera while filming, which is not really that prominent today, but I noticed this a lot in like old Desi Perkins videos, Patrick Starr videos. Like, they would be filming and they would be like joking with the person who's like helping them film off camera, but that person wouldn't be in the frame, but they would just like make a comment to them, kind of included in this like blooper-esque type of way. And I felt like that kind of symbolizes where we were in content at the time. There was that transition around this era from content being a lot more casual and laid back to being a bit more produced. And I feel like that idea represents that because it signals to the viewer like someone else is there helping them film this. There is someone else behind the camera, by the lights, making sure they're getting the shot, making sure the angle is good. It's no longer just someone on their bedroom floor filming. For some people it was, but we were seeing that kind of improvement in production quality, but still holding on to that original like laid back feel of like giggling with the person behind the camera. And this era was really when a lot of creators solidified this as being a career and being a business specifically. And I want to go back to Michelle Phan, who obviously was a really prominent creator even years prior to this, but before 2015 was when she launched Ipsy. Yes, if you didn't know, she created Ipsy, and she created that original glam bag where they would sell subscription boxes. And oh my gosh, let me tell you, we'll get into subscription boxes in a second because they were popular. But she also created this network of Ipsy creators, and 2015 was the year that she opened Ipsy Creator Studio. This was a physical space that creators could come in and film content. Again, we're kind of making that transition away from people just filming in a more casual setting on their floor with natural light, moving into these higher produced videos and really thinking about content creation as a business as opposed to more of a casual hobby. This was also the time we were seeing a lot of creators move to LA to pursue content full-time. That was a really popular destination for creators to move to be a little bit more collaborative, to be around brands. And that's not to say people don't still move to LA to pursue content creation, but not in the same capacity that they did in the mid to late 2010s. And spaces like this Ipsy Open Studio made that more possible. YouTube also used to have like physical filming spaces creators could go to. They have all since closed down. But going back to Ipsy, oh my goodness, a subscription box was super popular at this time. So there were probably three main players here. It was Birchbox, Ipsy, and BoxyCharm. All of those subscriptions had launched within the last 5 years. And around 2015, like they seemed to be at the top of their game. Michelle even said in a 2016 video that at the time, Ipsy had 1.5 million paid monthly subscribers. 2015 was also when Sephora tried to get in on this. They launched their own subscription, which was Sephora Play. And I think the popularity of these subscription boxes kind of calls back to makeup collections being smaller at the time. I don't think as many people would be interested in getting just like a random subscription of makeup every single month today because people just consume makeup differently. And generally speaking, collections are larger today than what they were a decade ago. But I remember at the time being so excited to see what was going to be in my Birchbox every month, or like even the BoxyCharms. Like I remember, I'm not a surprise person. I know some people want to wait to see what's in their box. Not me. I was watching every video, seeing people's unboxing, seeing what someone got versus someone else, like what I might get in my box. It feels so nostalgic to think about it. Like, oh my gosh, what a time. That's the mindset I have for most of 2015 when I was going back and reflecting and prepping for this video. I feel so nostalgic for that year. I'm like, oh, what a time. Like life seemed easier and simpler in a lot of ways, and especially here online, it felt a lot more wholesome, if you will. People just really loved makeup. They loved playing with it, learning new techniques. And that's not to say there's not still an element of that creativity and exploration today, but it's certainly a different landscape in 2025 than it was a decade ago. It also felt like a really special time because these were the beginning stages of kind of us creating the content. And I say us because prior to the popularity of online makeup videos, people were learning about product recommendations, application techniques. Like that was all coming from print, from magazines. That was dictated by editors. These were the years it started being dictated by us. There was that collaborative effort. Viewers would share requests with creators. Creators in turn would make the content their subscribers wanted to see. And like I said in the other videos in this series, I think it was years later where the beauty community bubble on YouTube really burst. But 2015 was debatably like the golden era, you know, the calm before the storm, if you will. So if you want to see those subsequent years, I'll have the playlist linked right here. I've gone all the way up to 2020. So I hope you're still enjoying this series. Thank you so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye.